Hi, this is Wanda from LilRoseArtWorks. Thanks for joining me today. Today we're going to be working on a resin piece and it's going to be a lot of fun. Now, if you just want to follow along, grab your coffee. If you want to work with me, then all of the items will be listed in the description box. I'm also including a link for beginners on how to work with resin. So there are a lot of YouTube videos out there about working with resin. I've only been working with resin for about 6 months, but it might be helpful to you. If you ever have any questions, please put them in the comments box. I'll be happy to get back with you. So if you're following along, grab your coffee, because we're going to head on down to my little carved out corner of creativity in the basement. Let's go. I've started this project by drawing out some dragonfly wings, and I traced them over with hot glue. I have mixed up my resin using Bombay ink and acrylics. I am filling my wells in my hot glue with the resin, and that is completed. We wait 24, we torch it and make sure that all the bubbles are out. We wait 24 hours. You can see there's a little bit of leakage, but don't worry about it. Right there is where I trimmed off the leakage the next day. This is going to be my base, which is a wooden piece of log, and I put it on a silicone mold, but the mold is too large. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to figure out how I want it, and then I am going to make a barrier with the hot glue that is going to act as a wall to hold the resin in. This will act as my base, and I'm looking for placement. Have to have a good setting area for the wings. I also have a lot of beads that are going to make up the body of the dragonfly. Here I'm just determining and showing you how I'm going to hook up the body of the dragonfly. I'm using wire and a variety of beads. I went ahead and set the head in place with eyes on, and I have fashioned the body. Now I need areas to adhere the adhesive to, so I'm looking for those areas. Pouring my first layer of resin after setting my dragonfly in place, and we'll be pouring it into the mold. The dragonfly has been adhered using super glue, and now we're getting ready to work on a turtle, and yes, that is a chicken egg filled with resin, and that will be the body of our turtle. Now the resin has been poured in, so I am going to outline around the shell and where it's going to set so I can start painting my turtle. I did place some rocks in the resin, as you can see. So starting with my head and my legs and tail. When you do this 3D type painting, which I'm going to give huge credit out to a gentleman named Gerardo Chierchia. I'll put his name in the description box, but he does some awesome 3D work. So when you're doing 3D work, you start with the lower level, you paint a bit in, then you're going to do a light pour, then you're going to paint the next layer in, and you just keep building up layers. So there I've got my first portion in. I'm using Naked Fusion Diamond Clarity resin again. This is my second resin pour, a very thin pour over the turtle, mostly over the turtle. I'm not too concerned about the back side of the diorama right now. I'm going to torch it to get the bubbles out. And if you notice that my resin is quite cloudy, it is because it is very cold. But that's okay. When I torch it, it takes all the bubbles out. So that has set for 24 hours, and I am now painting again on top of the resin. And again, making sure my placement is good and pouring that resin on. This time I'm leaving the egg in place, or the egg shell in place, torching it to get the bubbles out. And then again, when you're doing this, you wait for your resin. So it takes a few days for this. Oh, on the side here, I've decided I'm going to have some, what do you call them? Cattails and the leaves. So I am actually using hot glue to make an outline to pour the leaves into. And I'm also making a little portion out of a pine cone for the little turtle's head to be kind of sticking out of the water. So I'm just painting that little piece of pine cone. And then you'll see there the little wells that I made, the little molds that I made to pour the leaves in for my cattails. I also ended up doing some freeform leaves and just pouring some the resin into the side there. It didn't work too well. We'll look at that later. Here I painted some flowers, some silk flowers, and I'm using some beads and some wire to make the cattails, and the flowers are going to be lily pads. I also have this dried seed pod that I found somewhere on the road, and I'm using that for my water lilies. So close-up of those, I am going to paint those just like that, and it's going to be my water lilies. Using my resin, yet again, I'm using the resin here to affix the beads to the wire, and also to stiffen up the silk flowers. So just putting, I know I'm out of frame here, I'm sorry, but I'm just putting a little bit of resin on the wire and then putting the beads on, and that will hold it in place. I'm also coating the water lilies so they can firm up and be a little bit more solid as well. And there I'm going ahead and pouring the resin in those little molds that I made. You see the circular ones there. My thought process there was maybe lily pads, but they didn't turn out well. I like the flowers better, so I went with that. And going back onto the turtle, just trying to work on his shell. That was a little tight work there next to that log, so. This is meticulous because you have to wait for each portion to dry before you can go on. And the fourth resin pour. See how cloudy my resin is? That's because it's got a lot of bubbles. But, as I said, I use the torch and it's very thin because you are pouring very thin when you're doing a 3D. And I'm just being very careful there because I do have the pine cone piece sitting up there and I didn't want it to fall off. But you're pouring very thin when you're trying to do a 3D thing. I am by no means an expert at it, not at all. But I gave it a shot. I mixed in a little bit of color there to give my pond water some color. Not much. Alright, next day. Here I wanted to show you that I am taking the hot glue, the mold, away from the resin leaves that I created. It does come apart, it does pull off. So you may ask me, why then am I leaving my dragonfly wings, which were outlined with hot glue? You have to, as you'll see in a moment, pull really hard on some of these to get the glue off. Just like that one. Hot glue does not totally stick to it unless, if you look at the dragonfly wings, how much is incorporated there. If I really wanted to, I could probably tug away at the outsides of the hot glue and pull it away. But if I leave it alone, it's totally fine. Now there's some of the freeform that I did, and here I'm just cutting them up to actually make something that looks maybe like a leaf or, you know, part of a cattail. And it did work out pretty well. And you notice they're very flexible. So I like that because then I can kind of mold my leaves and give them some curl and give them some motion and some movement in my piece. There are my cattails. They turned out very well. And I'm just fashioning the leaves with them. I'm going to be using super glue and an accelerator. Oh, there are my silk flowers that I painted and that I am going to cut into lily pads, or my idea of a lily pad. There's my lily pad and my water lily. I have some moss that I'm going to use on this as well. And here's where we are right now. I did attach the moss and these cute little beads that looked like bugs, and I thought they would be cute, so I put them in there. I used super glue to affix them, but I will be going over everything with epoxy. Wherever I use super glue, I reinforce. Okay, lots of little teeny pieces that I'm putting together here. There are, I got a lot of mosses. Oh, the legs. We'll talk about the legs in a minute. There's my super glue and my accelerator, or insta set is the type I'm using. And I added also some more rocks in. Now, never do this. Don't put your piece in place and then try to fit some very meticulous, thin little legs in place. Really poor thinking on my part. It was a mess. Oh, but I finally did it. Got legs. Lost most of the color on it. You saw it on my hands, but I'll probably go back and touch that up. Now, my cattails. I am using, again, super glue and insta set. The insta set and super glue are just to hold them temporarily. On all my pieces, I use them to hold them temporarily, and then I come back and make sure that I use resin to hold everything solidly in place, even the bugs, even the moss, everything. So I'm progressing with these, and I'll be adding some more. And a little more on the other side to even it out. When you pour your resin, it's not only going to, I'm not only going to pour it into the base and it'll be holding the cattails, but I'll be pouring, just kind of drizzling resin into all of the pieces. The dragonfly will get some more resin, everything will get some more resin. And I'm setting my moss in different places. Resin will end up holding them in place as well. Now I normally, when I'm using a log, I normally will coat the entire log with resin, but this time I didn't really want to do that. But you'll see what I did. I did drizzle the resin around, but then I painted over where you could see the resin. Last and final coat of resin, and I'm torching. And I think there was something I wanted to mention that I saw just a second ago. Can't think of what it was, sorry. This project takes a few days to do, mostly because you have to wait in between each pour for the 3D effect. So you see me drizzling resin around all of the cattails. You see it around the little beads there, the bug beads. Everything's being reinforced right there, all the touch points, the touch areas for the dragonfly itself. The cattails reinforce all the touch points. Oh, I know. When you're working with wood, you get sometimes a lot of little pieces. There I am painting the resin parts where you could see the resin. So what I wanted to mention, you saw me brushing off the resin. When you're working with wood, sometimes you get a lot of little bits and pieces kind of coming. And now finally we get to unmold our project. So I'm just pulling this away and it'll be done. I will be doing a little bit of cleanup after the unmolding. There's some little pieces that need to be trimmed away. But other than that, turned out very well. I want to thank you all again for joining me on this journey and making this piece. Please subscribe, like, hit that bell for notifications. If you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to contact me. If you like this project, let me know. Put it in the comments. If you have any questions, put it in the comments. I'll be happy to respond to you. I hope you make a piece of your own, and if you do, let me see it. Let me know how it went. And here we go. Little close up here, and then we'll finish it up. Again, thank you so much. This is Wanda from LilRoseArtWorks. I'll see you next week.